Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 2 to 4 player game Thunder Road Ignition, designed by Noah Cohen, Rob Davio, Justin D. Jacobson, and Justin Kempinen, and published by Restoration Games, who helped sponsor this video. Your racing crew has one goal: get across the finish line by any means necessary. And if you have to smash a few other cars along the way, well, they shouldn't have gotten in your way. Based on the popular Thunder Road Vendetta, this game takes the same system and adjusts it to give you a familiar but streamlined experience with its own unique elements. If you're curious about Thunder Road Vendetta, I have a tutorial for that which I'll link to in the description of this video. But I'm here to teach you everything you need to know about this game. So join me at the table and let's learn how to play. To set up, go through these double-sided road tiles and look for the starting tile, which will have a number 1 printed on it, or a number 10, depending on which side you're looking at. Place this starting tile with either side face up, and then lay out any 5 other tiles, either randomly or by choice, in any way you like, creating curves and straight lines with tiles flipped to either side. When you're finished, you'll have 2 tiles left over, which you return to the box. However, if you want to play a longer game, you can use all of the track tiles. But no matter what length of track you have, add this finish line tile to the end, flipped to either side. Now find these pit stop tokens and set one by the starting tile. Then skip a tile and place another pit stop by the next road section. Then skip one more tile and place another pit stop. In this way, you'll have a pit stop by the 1st, 3rd, and 5th road tile. If you had created the longer track using all of the road tiles, place a 4th pit stop by the 7th one. All the tokens with this back are known as the hazards, which you'll shuffle face down, and then, without looking at their other sides, you'll place one face down on each of these hazard symbols, so on the starting tile, here and here. Then continue placing them on the related spaces all the way along the track so it looks something like this when you're done. Any hazard tokens you have left over, you return unseen back to the box. The tokens with this back are the damage tokens, which you shuffle and set face down within reach of the players, along with these 4 dice known as the direction, stunt, slam, and shooting die. Altogether, these are referred to as the FX dice. Each player now picks a color and collects the matching dashboard, dice, and cars. Your dashboard has 4 main sections, this command area, and then 1 section for each of your cars based on their sizes as indicated in this area. You have a section for your S small car, your M medium one, and finally a section for your L or largest vehicle. Every player now sets their cars to the left of the starting road tile, and we'll assume we have 3 players in this video, returning the unused dashboard and pieces back to the box. Now give the youngest player this first player marker, or you can just pick someone randomly. And that's the setup. In Thunder Road Ignition, you'll use your dice to race your vehicles down the track, trying to avoid hazards and other dangers, while very intentionally attempting to force your opponents into hazards and dangers. Be the first player to send any 2 of your cars across the finish line, and you'll win. The game is played over a series of rounds, and at the start of a round, each player rolls their dice. After this, the round is now broken into turns, starting with the first player and then going around and around the table in clockwise order until all of the players have taken 3 turns each. In this way, during every round, everyone gets 3 turns. And on your turn, you'll perform 3 steps, starting with using a command. Now, this step is unique because it's optional, and you can only use it at most once during a round. So of your 3 turns in a round, you can only use one of them to perform the command step. And that step will make more sense once we know more of the rules. So we'll skip that optional step for now and explain it later. But whether you perform the command step or not, you must then resolve the move step. Here you pick any one of your unassigned dice to add to the center of any one car section of your dashboard that does not have a die already. You then move that related car a number of spaces equal to the value on the die. So in this case, we'd now move our medium car 4 spaces. The road tiles are broken into several outlined spaces, as well as a row showing a cliff face, but your car cannot drive in this area, so none of this is considered a space. All of the cars begin off the road, so the first move a car makes is to enter any space of the starting tile's back edge, so perhaps like this. After that, each move must be into one of the car's adjacent front 3 spaces. A space is in front of your car if any part of it is further ahead of your current space. These are referred to as the front left, front, and front right spaces. So we could now go into any of these with our next point of movement. Each space also shows a type of terrain which can have an effect on your movement. For example, gray spaces are known as just road, while these lighter ones are called off-road spaces. Neither of these types have any restrictions on movement, so going back to the start of this car's 4 points of movement, I might have used the first one to go here, and then 2, 3, 4. During the move step, you must move the full amount of your car's assigned die unless something stops you. Now, to help explain the situations you might encounter in the game, I'm going to create different examples like you might see while playing. For instance, spaces with a double yellow border around them are called impassable spaces. And when a car would enter an impassable space, it is instead sent to the pit. Anytime something causes your car to go to the pit, you put it by the pit stop token above your current road tile. And if there isn't one there, you go to the closest one behind you. So if we separate these tiles, we can see we're about to enter an impassable space on this road tile which does not have a pit stop token, so our car would move beside this one instead. I'll explain what happens to cars that have been sent to the pit a little later, but for now it's enough to know you want to avoid being sent to the pit. And that means you want to avoid impassable spaces. But as we'll see, sometimes you'll be forced into those spaces. And in case you're curious, yes, you can choose to purposefully drive your own cars into impassable spaces, sending them to the pit, but I wouldn't recommend it. As we'll see, sometimes you'll be forced off the road or into this cliff face area. If that happens, your car goes to the pit, which as we learned means going to the one above your current road tile, or if one isn't there, to the closest one behind your current tile. So in this case, we would go to this one. But I'm going to separate these road tiles just to give you another example, because whether you go to the pit because you drove off the road or into impassable terrain, you only look at the last valid space you were on to determine which pit stop to go to. For example, if we were here and went into this impassable terrain, this was the last valid space we were on. That means we did not make it to this road tile, so we do not go to this pit stop and instead go back to this one. Likewise, if we went off the road here, even if it was in this direction, the last valid space we were on was on this road tile, so we'd go to this pit stop. While racing, you might find spaces with these barricades along their sides, and if your car would ever cross a barricade, it instead stops moving and goes to the pit. As turns continue, more and more cars will enter the board, and you can choose to drive into a space with another vehicle, yours or another player's. You lose any movement you may have had remaining, and then put your moving car on top of the one already in the space. You then immediately resolve what is known as a slam. Do this by rolling both the slam and direction die. If one of the vehicles in the slam is larger than the other, the person with the larger vehicle may choose to re-roll both dice once to change the results. And a player can do this even if they control both of the cars in the slam. Either way, you now resolve the dice starting with the red slam die. Its solid symbol indicates either the top or the bottom car. Then that car is moved based on the direction die. The direction die's solid symbol in the center represents the car's current position. So rotate the die to match the orientation of the spaces on the board like this. Its yellow outline symbol indicates the adjacent space. that the car on the red die must now move into. So here we'd move the bottom car into this space. If the direction die had shown this result, then the slammed car would have gone into this space instead. It's also possible that a slam will move a car into a space with another car, and that means the car moving in would go on top, and then you'd resolve another slam in this space by rolling the dice again. And you'd keep resolving slams until each space has only one vehicle in it. Now, although a car that slams into another one will lose any remaining movement points it might have, you still resolve any effects of the space it gets slammed into. So if a car was slammed into an impassable space or off the road, it would then go to the pit. Some spaces, like this one where a slam is occurring, have more than the 6 adjacent spaces shown on this die. In those cases, ignore any spaces that are not further ahead or further behind the space your cars are currently in. For example, this is an adjacent space, but it's not further ahead or further behind our car's current one. So this die result would move our car here, whereas this die result would move the car here. There are no die results that would move it from here into this space. In this example, we have fewer than 6 adjacent spaces. In a case like this, the space here is both ahead and behind the current one. So if we rolled this result, we'd move here. And the same is true if we rolled this result. And in both of those cases, since this car crossed a barricade, it would now be sent to the pit. Okay, with that understood, let's go back to learning about the types of spaces you might drive or be slammed into during a move step. If you enter a space with one of these hazard tokens, immediately turn it face up and resolve it. These have various effects, so let's go through each one. This you treat as a regular road space, so if you have movement left, just keep driving. This type of hazard is known as an oil slick. After entering one of these spaces, immediately roll the direction die and resolve it, moving your car to the indicated space. A move you're forced to make from an oil slick does not use up any of the movement from the die you assign to your car, so if you have any movement left, keep driving. Of course, if an oil slick was to send you into an impassable space or off the road or through a barricade, you'd instead go to the pit. Moving on, here's another type of hazard you might reveal, a minefield. Entering one of these ends your movement for that turn and your car takes damage. Anytime a car takes damage, reveal one of these damage tokens and resolve its effect. In this case, we've revealed a skid, and that means you move one space in the direction shown. After a damage effect is resolved, put the token face down under that car's section of your dashboard. With just one damage, a car still drives as normal, but if it gets a second damage token after resolving it, that car goes to the pit. And again, we'll see how you get a car out of the pit a little later. There are also other types of damage tokens, and we'll learn more about those as well. But let's first finish up learning about the different types of hazard tiles. If you reveal one of these Rubble Hazards and your car has no damage when it enters the space, there is no effect. On the other hand, if you enter Rubble while your car has 1 damage, your car stops moving and goes to the pit. You'll also find these Rubble spaces printed on the road tiles themselves, and they work the same way. Finally, we have this Omni ramp. When a car enters its space, it loses any remaining movement it has, but then you roll this stunt die. This has values from 1 to 4, and you now move your car that many spaces in the direction it was going when it entered the Omni ramp. So if we'd been driving into the front left, and then we rolled this 3, we would continue going in that direction 1, 2, 3 spaces. Ignore any spaces between the ramp and where you land because you're flying over them. But do resolve the terrain or hazards of the space you land in, along with a slam if another car was there. And keep in mind, anytime you enter a space, first resolve the type of road it is, and then after resolve a slam if another car is also in that space. Okay, with that we've covered all the hazard tokens you might encounter, and once a hazard is revealed, it stays on the board for the rest of the game. We've also covered all the different types of spaces your car might enter, but there is a special bonus gained from traveling on road spaces. Remember, road spaces are the gray ones that look like this. If your car starts its move on a road space and then only moves along road spaces for its turn, after, you may move it one extra space. And this extra movement doesn't have to be on a road space. And you also don't have to use the bonus movement if you don't want to. You also gain this bonus move when your car comes from off the board at the beginning of the game, or when it leaves the pit stop, as we'll learn about later, as long as the first space it enters is road, and the rest of its moves that turn are only along other road spaces. Also notice the oil slick hazard has a gray background, so it counts as a road space for gaining the bonus move, as long as it doesn't force you into a non-road space. With that, we've covered moving. So to summarize, during the move step of your turn, you assign a die to a car that doesn't already have one, and then move it that number of spaces. After, as long as your car did not end up in the pit, you now resolve the shoot step of your turn. Here you check the adjacent front left, front, and front right spaces ahead of the car you just moved, and pick one car in any of those spaces. You can even pick a car on the other side of a barricade. With a valid target picked, shoot it by rolling this shooting die. If its letters match the size of the targeted vehicle, small, medium, or large, then the vehicle is hit and takes damage by drawing and resolving a damage token, as we saw earlier. Smaller cars appear 2 times on this die, medium cars are on 3 sides, and large cars appear 4 times as they're easiest to hit. So again, if you hit a car when shooting, it resolves and gains a random damage token. Now we saw one of these damage tokens already, but let's look at the other types of effects they might have. If a damage token has these symbols, the damaged car has a battery discharge. You now roll the direction die, and if there's a car in the adjacent space that it shows, that car immediately takes 1 damage. This next damage effect causes a blast off. You now roll the direction and stunt die, and move your car the number of spaces on the stunt die in the direction shown on the direction die. Ignore all of the spaces in between, but resolve any effect related to the space you land in, along with a slam if a vehicle is there. The effect of this damage token is called Dazed. You first roll the stunt die, and then roll the direction die that many times again, moving your car 1 space in the direction it shows each time. So if I rolled a 3, I would now roll the direction die 3 times. So if my first roll was this, I would move here. Then if my next roll was this, I would move here. And then I'd roll a 3rd time, maybe getting this, moving me here. When resolving dazed rolls, stop and don't roll the direction die anymore if your car slams into another one, or becomes damaged, or is sent to the pit. Here's the final type of damage token. It has no printed effect, so nothing happens when it's revealed, it's just a small dent in your car. That said, it's still a damage token, so as usual, you still put it under your dashboard after it's revealed. Okay, with that we've covered moving and shooting, but as we saw, your car can end up in the pit. During the move step, if you assign a die to a car that is in the pit, first, move any damage tokens it has to a shared damage discard area, and then add the car to any road space along the back of that pit stop's related road tile. These spaces are easy to see because they're marked with this symbol. If you choose a space with a car already on it, then you also now resolve a slam. But other than that, nothing else happens with a car that just came from the pit. It does not get to move or shoot, so ignore the value on the die you assign to it. Assigning a die to a car that was in the pit just removes any damage it had and gets it out of the pit. I should mention, if you would ever need to draw a damage token but they've run out, just shuffle the discarded ones into a new pile and draw what you were owed. With that, we've fully covered moving and shooting. After resolving those steps with one of your dice, the next person in clockwise order takes their turn assigning a die to one of their car sections to move and shoot with that related car. But remember, at the very start of your turn, once per round, and that's important, only once per round, not per turn, in addition to assigning a die to a car, you may first add an unused die to this command space. The value on the die does not matter, but now you pick any single command effect shown here and resolve it. So let's go through each of these together, starting with this first one known as Slipstream. Use it to pick any one of your cars currently on the road, except for the one that is furthest ahead. If you have more than one car that is tied for being furthest ahead, then none of them can be moved using this Slipstream command. With the valid car picked, you then roll this stunt die, moving the car that number of spaces, following the usual rules, except that when moving with the Slipstream command, you do not get to move one extra space if all your moves were on road spaces. That move bonus we learned about earlier is only awarded during the move step of your turn, not from a command-related movement or movement you might get from being slammed or from a damage effect. Going back to the command options, you choose this Jumpstart one if you plan to assign a die that turn to a car that you have in a pit stop. Normally, when a car leaves a pit stop, it cannot move or shoot that turn. But after using this command, it can. So now we'd be able to move 5 spaces coming out of that pit stop and shoot with that vehicle. If instead you use your command for this drift action, it allows you to ignore the first car you would move into that turn. So if I was moving this car 4 spaces, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, ignoring this car and not resolving a slam with it. But remember, drifting only allows you to ignore the first car you would move through. So if I drifted through this car and then entered this space, now I'd have to stop and resolve a slam. You also always have to resolve a slam if the last space of your drift contains a vehicle, even if that's the first vehicle you would have encountered during the drift. All right, finally we have this missile command. Choosing this allows you to pick any car on the board and resolve a shoot action against it. It really can be any car on the board. You do not have to have one of your cars adjacent to it. Okay, we now know all the steps of a player's turn. You may first choose to assign a die to use your one command of the round, and then whether you did or not, you must assign an unused die to a car and move it, and then may shoot with it if possible. Keeping in mind, sometimes the die you assign will simply remove damage from your car and get it out of the pit. After performing those steps, the next person in clockwise order takes their turn. And turns will continue like this around and around the table until each player has had 3 turns, meaning everyone will have a die on each of their car sections. That ends the round, and now a new one is started by having players collect all of their dice and roll them. Then pass the first player token to the left. That person now takes the first turn of the next round, choosing from their newly rolled dice. Rounds will continue like this, with players trying to get their cars across the finish line. As soon as a car moves off the front edge of the last road tile so that it lands anywhere on this finish line tile, it has finished the race. And this counts even if it gets there due to a hazard, slam, or damage effect. It just has to end up on this tile, even if it ends up on a section of this tile that looks like it just slammed into the cliff face. It also counts as crossing the finish line if a car would fly over the finish line. For example, if you drove through an Omni ramp here and rolled a 4 on the stunt die, you'd fly through the air 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and cross over the finish line. When a car makes it to or over the finish line tile, it is then moved to an area near your dashboard. If you had assigned a die to that car already, set that die beside it. Or if the car had reached the finish line tile but didn't already have a die in its section, just pick any one of your unassigned dice to put beside it. Either way, you will not use the die placed with that car for the rest of the game. Having this die and car out of action means that you'll only roll 3 dice from now on and take 2 turns each round, having your last turn skipped. However, the first player to get any 2 of their cars across the finish line immediately wins the game. As I mentioned earlier, there are other versions of Thunder Road that you can pick up and combine with Thunder Road Ignition, and you can learn how to do this by checking the back of the Ignition rulebook here. But otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Thunder Road Ignition. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime I post a new video. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can join the Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.